boys and girls. How are you all? Today we're going to focus more on life cycles, and we're really going to focus on the metamorphosis part of an animal's life cycle. Yesterday, I loved listening to you all read pages 82 and 83. If you haven't already read those pages and recorded yourself, please go back and record yourself reading those pages in the science book. These are the 2 pages. It's not too bad. And don't forget to tell me one thing that you learned. At least one thing. I'm sure you learned more than one thing. Like I said, today and tomorrow we're going to focus more on the metamorphosis life cycle. The word morph actually means to change, just like I have on the board up here. Morph means to change. Metamorphosis. These animals go through such a big change that their body form looks totally different from when they're young to when they're adult. Not like us. As babies, we look like smaller versions of ourselves. We may not have as much hair, our fingers aren't as long, we're not walking around yet, but we still have all the same body parts. That's not the case for animals that go through metamorphosis. And amphibians go through metamorphosis as well as insects. We usually think of the typical frog and butterfly, but all insects go through metamorphosis, and so do amphibians. Let's take a look at an amphibian first. Here we have the typical frog, and a frog starts its life out as frog spawn, or the eggs. They hatch into a tadpole. It continues to grow and starts to form some back legs, but it's still underwater. And it looks a little more like a froglet. By 6 months, it looks a lot like an adult frog, but there's still that little nub of a tail. And then by 1 year, it is the adult frog. And the process starts all over again with the adult laying the eggs. You can see that up here on this poster as well. Most of the time, you see metamorphosis diagrams drawn in a circle because it continues on. Here, you could start with the adult. You could start with the eggs. It doesn't matter because it's in a circle. It never ends. Here, let's go ahead and just start with the egg. And this is a leopard frog, it tells us. We have eggs, the larva, which is our tadpole. The tadpole starts to develop legs after about 5 weeks, but it's still underwater. Then its front legs start to develop. Here, it's going to froglet into the adult frog. And then it's the adult and it starts all over again. A tadpole is so different from the adult, not just in the way it looks, but in a lot of its body parts and their functions as well. A tadpole is underwater all the time, and the frog is on land near the water. It needs to stay near the water so that it can breathe correctly with its skin being moist. But the tadpole's underwater all the time, so how does it breathe? It is breathing through gills underwater. Gills help separate the oxygen from the water. And frogs breathe with their lungs to take the oxygen out of the air. That is a major difference. The tadpole also has no legs. It has the tail to help it maneuver its way through the water. And the frog has strong legs and a long tongue to catch its prey. Let's look at insects now. We often think of a butterfly or a moth going through metamorphosis, but know that all insects go through metamorphosis. Your book showed a ladybug. Even a common housefly goes through metamorphosis of egg, larva, pupa, adult, just like this monarch butterfly up here on this poster. On this poster up here we'll start with the adult this time. The adult monarch lays the egg on the leaf, usually a milkweed plant. The egg hatches into a larva caterpillar. That stage is called the larva. Then it forms a chrysalis around it, which we call the pupa. The adult begins to form inside of there. It comes out of the chrysalis and it is the adult, and it continues on and on in that circle. Here's another butterfly diagram. This time we can start with the egg. The egg on the leaf hatches into the larva. The larva goes to the pupa. The pupa becomes the adult, mating, and the cycle begins again with eggs laid on the leaf. How different is this larva from the adult? Morph means to change. Look at how different that this animal is from the adult. The larva cannot fly, but the adult can. I love Metamorphosis because it is so different from how we are. I love learning about it and thinking about how animals can just change so dramatically through their lives. What I want you to do now is to make your own diagram of Metamorphosis. Remember that a diagram is when you have labels. So we need to label the egg stage, larva, pupa, and adult. I'd appreciate it if it wasn't of a ladybug or a frog, because that's exactly what your book has. Pick a different insect or a different amphibian and draw me a great diagram of the life cycle of an insect or an amphibian through metamorphosis. You can upload those pictures onto Google Classroom, or if it's easier for you, please just have your parents take a picture of it and post it on Dojo. Thank you. I love you. Goodbye.